The royal tour was coming to a quiet finish at the kind of denouement that generally fades slowly. The crowds were smaller, the cameras were motionless, and the atmosphere was calmer in the absence of headlines. Prince William and Princess Kate walked through a room full of frontline employees with composure. Their smiles are warm and their voices are quiet. This was Britain during the epidemic, a nation molded by fortitude, grief, and silent bravery, and there was no ceremony at this last stop. It has to do with appreciation, however, an unforeseen event later occurred. A woman in her 96s came forward. And because the events that followed weren't planned, she quickly turned a ceremonial royal visit into something profoundly human. It wasn't practiced. The tour itself arrived at a sensitive time, a period when Britain was still silently bearing the burden of uncertainty. Hospitals have come to represent perseverance, ordinary people had taken on remarkable tasks, and communities had relied on one another. This journey wasn't designed with grandeur in mind for Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales. It was much more intentional. They continued to concentrate on frontline workers, followed by high school employees, volunteers, military representatives, and those who had maintained everyday operations during the slowdown. Each halt seemed purposeful. This was a difference from the customary royal appearances of fewer formal remarks, more listening, fewer choreographed moments, and more sincere conversations. Every discussion was personal. Because leadership is different in times of uncertainty, it gets calmer, more sympathetic, and more human, and frequently the tiniest exchanges, such as spontaneous smiles and unexpected jokes, reveal the most about a person's personality. The pace slowed as the tour approached its latter days, but not because of exhaustion but rather with purpose. Movement gave way to meaning, longer talks, greater listening, fewer places. In these last moments, Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, met the people who had helped the nation get through its most trying time: NHS personnel, frontline employees, volunteers, as well as local authorities. Dramatic speeches and large stages were absent. Rather, there were story-filled, peaceful rooms, tales of resiliency, long shifts, and missed family milestones that seldom ever made the news. The couple approached each exchange with caution. They took a subtle yet thoughtful approach. They posed queries, they paid attention. They made room for feeling, which was uncommon in conventional royal contexts. As a result, the visit's tone changed. It has nothing to do with visibility, presence was the key. Even simple actions could lead to a shared laugh, a contemplative stop, or a moment of recognition during a period when public morale was still precarious, because announcements don't always accompany leadership. Sometimes it just silently appears and listens. Then one of the tour's most thoughtful surprises, something subtly imaginative and profoundly symbolic, came. A specially built drive-in theater sprang to life as night fell. Headlights and rows of automobiles arranged under the open sky, gently shimmering in the last of the light. That was exactly the point. It wasn't a conventional royal setting. Keller, starring Emma Stone, was the movie selected for the evening. It was a daring, colorful tale that seemed like a purposeful contrast to the months of silent stress. The event was designed especially for frontline staff and NHS employees who had spent many nights under fluorescent hospital lights. We are now encouraged to spend a new type of night outside under the sky. Something cinematic was present. About everything. The soft wave of applause reverberating through open windows, the glare of headlights, the hum of engines. It was more than just a movie screening for many. It was a liberating moment. After months of stress, uncertainty, and sacrifice, a little party and a silent thank you. This small deed has unanticipated emotional significance. Because sometimes leadership is more than just acknowledging adversity. However, the tour's most memorable moment occurred during a more intimate, quiet visit. Unfolded. Prince William showed up at Queen's Bay Lodge Care Home by himself this time. A quiet care facility in the heart of Edinburgh. In contrast to the regal show, the environment was serene and hospitable. Residents and workers gathered inside with a mild sense of anticipation. Warm, respectful, and deliberately measured, there were smiles, courteous greets, and the familiar cadence of a royal encounter. William shifted between conversations, sharing silent laughs, asking questions, and listening to stories. Then he got to know Betty. Betty, who was 96 years old, had a spark that instantly altered the atmosphere. Her presence was unavoidable, her humor effortless, and her manner light-hearted. What came next was not anticipated. It wasn't official. It was just human. Betty would break through royal decorum as she conversed with William, transforming a courteous discussion into a truly joyous occasion. Employees grinned. The surprising warmth was captured by cameras. The formality that frequently accompanies royal visits abruptly subsided into something much more genuine. It was no longer about titles or custom. It has to do with making connections. And in that brief impromptu exchange, an ordinary engagement was turned into something subtly remarkable by a 96-year-old woman. Prince William later found himself narrating the interesting encounter on a video call related to the drive-in movie event. HS employees were watching Cruella on the other side of the screen, while Emma Thompson and Emma Stone were practically participating in the celebration. As William recalled how the tone changed from formal to casual when they met 96-year-old Betty. He made light of the reality of social separation, describing how Betty had moved in closer than anticipated, transforming a circumspect royal moment into something cozy. William grinned, the actresses giggled, and the lines of royal formality temporarily relaxed. It was light-hearted, unplanned, and surprisingly organic. The public was given a view of a different aspect of royal life through a straightforward video conversation, one that was influenced by genuine connection and a common sense of humor. Because sometimes people are brought closer by gentle, spontaneous, unguarded laughter. These instances showed something more profound, even from Miles Apper. A subtle change in the public's perception of contemporary royalty. For Prince William, being a leader seems to be more about relatability than ceremony. Emotional intelligence, empathy, and presence are gradually replacing the meticulously choreographed grandeur of royal heritage. These weren't historic declarations or speeches that made headlines. They were tiny gestures, a shared story, a chuckle, and a chat. However, such instances had a lasting effect because protocol is rarely remembered. They recall the sensation. This is where William's changing leadership style is evident. Sincere friendliness, thoughtful humor, and quiet listening. These minor characteristics produce a distinct kind of effect that is based on connection rather than distance. And maybe that's why these exchanges have such a powerful resonance. Amid a moment of uncertainty, perfection is not what audiences are searching for. They are searching for people. The most effective leadership isn't always loud or theatrical. Sometimes it's just a simple act of compassion. Ultimately, this trip wasn't characterized by formality or show. It was molded by a more subdued humanity. From a drive-in movie theater beneath the stars to sincere talks with frontline employees. There was a subtle sense of purpose in every moment. However, the most memorable, the most surprising source was the highlight. A 96-year-old woman whose warmth and humor momentarily made royal formality seem incredibly real. Laughter, friendliness, and connection were the only things there. There were no lofty statements or dramatic headlines prepared ahead of time. And maybe that's why contemporary royal leadership is becoming more about understanding rather than distance. Because often the most significant effects come from the smallest moments. And a lasting impression was made by this silent tour.